So hopefully this is working. I don't know if I might have just jumped into a new scene there. I don't know. Whatever. I'm here now. I don't know if I transitioned at the right time or not, but we will get this working more smoothly one day. But hopefully everyone can see me now. I'm just waiting for the stream preview to update to make sure that I know for sure that I've done things the way that I expect, because there's always a really big lag. So, yeah, let's see. What's going on here? How come I'm not seeing it now? All right. I don't know if I transitioned at the right time or not. But all right. So, what are we working on today? So I was gonna start building these new blog sections for Tailwind UI, just like some components Steve designed. And I thought it'd be fun to do it on stream, since I got to do it anyways, and people seem to like the streams. So I threw up a poll on Twitter, and the consensus was to do this one with the cards. So that's what we're gonna do. So we have this like little app that lets us kind of preview all the components and work on them. So that's where I'm going to be building this stuff. So if I just, maybe I'll grab like just something as a starting point, something simple. I don't know, maybe like this. And we'll just, actually we're going to look at, there's a product.yaml file that'll tell us the category name. So it's just going to be blog sections. So it's going to under be sections, blog sections. We'll just say cards in 3 columns or something. Or 3 column cards. 1 second. All right, so with any luck, oh, I just screwed that up. We need to duplicate this file. So I'll make a copy of this, call this blog sections. This file name doesn't really matter. It's just for my own purposes. So we'll call this 3 column cards. This is kind of like the custom format we use in like our own back end to store all of the different components. So we have like a bunch of metadata at the top, and then we have 2 templates. One is what you actually see in the little preview widget, and one is like the actual thing that you get when you hit the copy code button. So for the marketing stuff, usually they're just the same. So we just use this little snippet short tag. But in application UI stuff, sometimes it's a little bit different. So let's see if we can find this junk in here somewhere. If we look for blog sections, there it is. And let's just delete everything that's in here and make it better. Okay, so we're gonna do the mobile version first. So I am going to pull up Figma. So I think the way that we're gonna do this, the hardest part here is going to be these 2 background colors, but I think we'll probably tackle that last. So let's just start with the content first. So let's just assume everything is going to go on a gray background. We'll use this gray 50 color. And then we'll just get in some content. So maybe we'll do like an H2 from the blog or something. Then a P tag with like some lorem ipsum that is maybe this long or something. And then under that, we're going to have a div for the cards and probably a div for each card. But since they're all going to be the same, we'll just start with one first. So in this card, we are going to have a section with an image and a section with some content. And the section with the content has some padding, so it's got 24 on all sides, it looks like, so that's easy. So we'll just do P6. And then inside there, we're going to have something that says blog, and then we're going to have probably like an H3, I guess, like boost your conversion rate. Ah, man. I can't get my mouse off my other screen. What's going on here? There we go. When I change the resolution on my main monitor, the way that the screens are aligned gets screwed up. So like there's no seamless transition with my mouse between the screens. I have to like remember if it's the top corner or the bottom corner. And then we'll do like some lorem ipsum stuff here. Just start with nothing, whatever. And then it looks like under that we're going to have a div for like the author section. And that's going to have an image and then another div that has the author information and then the date. Probably using like a time tag or whatever, right? MDN time tag, isn't that a thing? And I think the format for this can be, yeah. So we'll do date time equals 2020-03-16. Yeah, it's the material theme, but probably is modified. I can't remember. I think I have a gist to all my VS Code settings on my website somewhere. I think if you go to adamwyland.me/uses, there's a link here under VS Code, which is like my VS Code settings sync gist that has a bunch of junk in here. I don't know when the last time this was updated. I'll sync it right now if you want. Sync, upload, update, upload settings. So now we should see maybe 10 revisions here or something. Yeah, so there's the most recent version of all my VS Code settings. All right, so we got our time tag in there. This is looking really junky so far. And then we're going to have this like mid dot character. And then we'll do another span just so we can control the styling of it if necessary. And yeah, so now let's work on styling this. So maybe what I'll do first is I'll grab, you know what, if I go to avatars, I don't know, this is probably the right one. Stick this dude's avatar in there. There he is. Internally, we refer to this guy as Tom Cook because when it's zoomed out, he kind of looks like Tim Cook until you look closely. And Steve had some image here. I don't know what this would be called, but we'll just find something. Home office, maybe we can find the same image that Steve had. I always try to find the same one, but if I can't, it doesn't bother me too much. Whatever, let's just grab this one. All right, so we will stick that here. And let's see. Okay, so now let's go back to this heading and start styling this stuff. Yep. Just on the call or on a live stream. I can't eat this right now. Thank you. All right, so we got font size 36, which is what? 2.25. So that's probably like 4XL. Yep. And then letting 10, since we have 40 line height here, and Steve has some tighter tracking on this, so we'll say tracking tight. Font extra bold, text gray 900. And let's wrap this in a div since all the text is centered on both of these, so we can kind of define that together. And then how much space do we have above this? 64. That's, or sorry, 64 divided by 4, 16. And then does he have the same thing down here? Where is... I just want to see the distance from the edge of the frame to this, 64. Okay, so we can just do like a py16 on this. All right. And what other styles do we got? So we got 20 pixels between the text and the title. So that's going to be MT5. And we have font size 20, so that's text XL. Line height of 28 is leading 7. Text gray 500. So that should be getting there. All right. And then we got some space between this and this, 48 pixels, which is MT12. Steve uses some Figma plugin to get the photos, so he doesn't really know even what the URL would be. And what do we have here? What's the height of this image? 197. That is not a real thing. Probably we can go H48 on the image. H48 object cover. And then we also need to do like, what's the border radius Steve has on here? 8. So rounded LG, shadow LG, overflow hidden. And I think normally we do PX4 on small screens. Okay, so this image width needs to be full explicitly. Okay. And then we've got, for this blog text, that's going to be text small, leading 5, font medium, text indigo 600. Okay. And then this title, it's going to be text XL, leading 7, font semi-bold, text gray 900. And the gap is 8 pixels, so we're going to have an MT2 here. And this paragraph is just going to be text gray 600. I can never decide if I want to be explicit with the font size here, because it's sort of just the default, but it's probably not a bad idea to be explicit. MT3. What does that give us? All right, now let's deal with Tom here. So Tom, well, this whole section has a gap of 24, so that's going to be an MT6. And then the avatar is 40 by 40, so that's going to be H10, W10, rounded full. And then sometimes things get weird. We're going to have to use Flexbox for this. And if you put an image as a direct flex child, sometimes you have some weird things that happen. So I'm not going to do that. We'll do items center. And then this div, it looks like, is 12 pixels away. Steve has been getting really good at giving me Tailwind values for everything lately, which is nice. This is probably going to be a link ultimately, but that's something I can maybe talk about with Steve. It's going to be text SM, leading 5, font medium, text gray 900. And then down here, this is directly on top, and it has the same sizes. Now, looks like he uses text. Now this is a wrong gray. This is an old gray. So I think probably it's going to be, I think this has to be 500. The new 500 is most similar to the old 600. I use margin top because I try to only use margin top or margin bottom so you don't run into collapsing margin issues. And I find margin top makes more sense than margin bottom to me, because if I do margin top, then margin top affects the element that the class is applied on. It pushes it down. If I did a margin bottom on this element doesn't actually change. This one changes. So it feels a little less direct. So by putting a margin top on this, it's kind of affecting the element that has the class instead of affecting elements around it. So that's generally what I'll do. There are some cases where I will do it a little bit differently, and we're actually going to run into one, but generally that's what I do. So here where there's this like mid dot character, this is actually a situation where I might use like a MX on the dot. So we're going to need to do like a flex here as well. We don't have to, but I find it nicer. Gives you better ability to control this. So this is like looking fine now. And now we just need to make some more of these cards. So let's find this card. We'll just make 3 of them. All right, so now we have 3 cards. Now here's an interesting thing. We could do a margin top on this card and this card to create the gap between them. But since on desktop, we're going to go to a grid layout where they're side by side, I kind of like this solution of using CSS grid even for a single column and then using the gap property. So if we just do grid, and then we look at this gap, which is 19 for shame, Steve. Gap 5. Now we've kind of solved our problem, right? So there's our cards. And now if we wanted to change the gap between them, we could just do it all at once. We could just say gap 12. And now the gap is 12 between both. We don't have to change the margin in both places. Flexbox and grid are both valuable. They kind of do different things. All right, so let's switch to a bottom deal here now that we kind of have to figure out the next breakpoint. And one thing you'll notice is that Steve had given a max width to things. So you see how right now everything's like kind of full width here. It's a little bit aggressive. Here you can see like Steve had given the cards a width of 512. Looks like he went full width up here, but 512 on here. So 512 is 32 rem. So I think if we just do something like max width, which one's 32? LG, MX Auto. That should kind of give us that constrained kind of look. We do need to put links in here at some point. Probably this whole card needs to be a link. Or maybe just the title. I don't know. I'll bug Steve about that, but since we're just working on the Tailwindy design parts, I'm not going to sweat that too much. And now at the next breakpoint, well, what is this? This is a 1024. So it sounds like Steve expects me to just keep it this way until large screens. So I think all we are going to need to do is go large grid calls 3. Looks like he doesn't even change the font size or anything. So that's nice. So that's just going to stay. Now this is probably too much here. Let's see. Steve has a max width of 720 on this, which is 45. So let's do that here. Max width. What's our closest to 45? 42. Probably that'll be fine. You might want to do the same thing with the title too, depending on I don't know. I'll have to talk to Steve. But that's fine. And it looks like the cards are okay here. Let's go to the grid view. We haven't even done it yet. Grid. All right, so we're going to have to get rid of the max width here, obviously, right? Because this looks very silly. So we'll do LG max width none. So it can just be as wide as it needs to be. Now, I think generally we do this pattern where on small screens we use a PX6 and on large screens we use a PX8. So I'm just going to bake that right in. And then what did Steve do for the height of these images? Did he keep it the same? 192, 197. I mean, yeah, that's the same as far as I'm concerned. And it doesn't look like anything else really changes. He makes this a little bit wider on the biggest screen, which is a little bit surprising to me, actually. What does he do for the gap? Is the gap the same? 20? Yeah, so he keeps the gap the same. Okay, so I'm just going to roll with that for now. And the next thing I want to think about is, well, actually, there's some padding stuff here. So 64. What does he do for the bottom here? 101. I don't know if that's like super deliberate, but probably we do want more space at the bottom than he has there. Probably just have to bug him about that. Because what does he do for this one? He still has 64. But I think we found generally that things look fine with kind of this type of spacing in isolation. But then when you stack them together in a marketing page, you end up wanting to have more space. But that's okay. Let's try swapping out some of the content so we can make sure that we do things like push all these to the bottom when the content length is different and stuff. So I'm going to do that. So let's go to Unsplash and grab like another home office picture. I don't know. Like this one, whatever. We'll use that for the second one. Where's the second card? Here. Did that work? What if did I not copy it? I probably went copy image instead of copy. Yeah. And let's get something that looks a little bit different with like a different amount of contrast. Maybe like something darker. Like this one. This is nice. That's a pretty exquisite live edge desk he's got there. What have I done now? Oh, I updated someone's photo. That's what I did. I'm going to swap these two around. All right. So let's copy Steve's content here just so we can make things a little bit more realistic. And this is what? Case study. This says video. We'll just make Tom Cook be the author of all of them. That's not that important. We'll do like a longer lorem ipsum on this one. And maybe like a shorter one on this one. Let's just see how... I just want to make sure we have different lengths. Okay, so this one's probably too long, but... maybe a little bit longer than that. I'd like to get like 3 lines, 4 lines, and 2 lines sort of thing. Yeah, so there's 4, there's 2, and then for this one, probably like to there. I don't know. Yeah, that works. So now you can see like these things are not aligned and kind of look silly. So let's fix that. So to do that, I'm just going to find this card section. And I think the easiest thing is just flex call. Wrap this in a div. And then justify between. And then this has to be h0 flex 1. No? What am I doing wrong here? What am I forgetting? Flex, oh, this isn't taking up the full height. Okay, so I wonder if we can just do h full on that. Whoa. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, that's fine. So then we just need to go up here and also do flex call. Flex shrink 0. h0 flex 1. There we go. All right, so then I just need to kind of copy this pattern for the other two. So like this, and this, and this stuff. What am I looking for here? h0 flex 1. Whoa, I goofed. This should just be flex call. I must have done something stupid here. Let's just grab this. This is supposed to be flex shrink 0. And it still is messed up. I wonder if the h0 thing is biting me here. Yeah, the h0 trick is usually kind of a good thing for bulletproofing these things, because you need h0 basically sets the flex basis to 0, which basically lets the element shrink. But I guess since we don't ever need it to shrink in this case, it doesn't really matter. So that's actually not important in this case now that I think about it. It's useful in cases where you have like, say you have like two things that are fixed width and then one thing that's like a fluid width in between them. If you want that fluid width to always just only take up the amount of space made available based on the fixed width things beside it, you want it to have a width of 0 or a flex basis of 0, so that it'll actually shrink as necessary, because sometimes it just won't shrink otherwise. Yeah, we could make an HTML template per card in a real app, but just for what we're doing here, generally we duplicate things so people have a full template to copy. All right, so I'm just going to grab all this and stick it here, move this up, delete. Now I've kind of lost track of what I was even looking at. Okay. So delete, move that up, delete. And then we need that div to wrap up the content, the flex1 div. All right. So that's correct now. All right. So that's looking pretty good. We're just using a fixed height for the images, which I think is fine. You could do it with like an aspect ratio too, which can be like kind of a neat way to do it, but I think this will be good enough for now. So maybe the next thing is we'll try and tackle this like little overlapping background thing. And then I think I'll probably stop because my wife brought me lunch and it's going to get cold. So we see we have this like white background and then a gray background, and it's like kind of overlapping the cards. I'll show you my like trick for doing that lately. Basically what I do is I create a full height absolute positioned element behind everything and then stick a chunk in it that's got like a percentage height basically. So what I'll do is I'll do like relative on this, and then I'll do absolute inset 0. And say we just give this like BG black, you'll kind of see it's just a full screen black thing, right? And then I'll take this whole thing and stick that inside of a div, just so we can give this a class of relative so that the z indexes aren't stomping on each other, right? And now what we can do is, since we're using the gray 50, we'll have to decide which one to make the background and which one to make the... I think we'll keep the background gray and we'll make like a white thing here. So we'll just do like H 1/3 sort of thing. And now with any luck, you can see, okay, wow, that like lined up a little too close for comfort there. But you can see there's like a white section with a gray section. It's probably not super easy to see on the stream. If I made this like gray 200, it's a little bit more obvious. Oh, that's why it's lining up, because like this card has no background color. So that's a fix that we'll need to make. So that's like how I'm going to add that line there. So let's go to find these cards. Basically, we'll just take all of these sections. We'll add BG white to them. Right, so there's like our cards now. And we'll make this back to 50. And now if we go to the larger screen size, I think we can push this down now. So maybe we'll do like SMH 1/2 or something like that. And that's a little too close to the image line. It looks a little bit funky. Where does Steve has this line approximately? He has it kind of lower. So maybe we'll do like 2/3. So there's the line now. So now you can kind of see if we zoom out, there's like, oh, we need a max width on this too. But there's like a kind of an overlapping line right there, which I think kind of looks cool. All right, so let's put a max width on this whole thing. Good thing we have this div, because that's kind of the right place to do it. Let's do like a 7XL, which is like 1280. And let's just like zoom out so we can kind of see. Yeah. So there you go. All done. And it looks pretty good. So the only thing left here would be to make these cards actually be links. I'll have to talk with Steve about that, figure out what he wants to do for the design. Like you could do something fancy where you hover over the card and the whole card like raises up and transitions or something. Problem with making the whole card a link is if you wanted this Paul York thing to be a link, you can't really do nested links. So maybe it makes more sense just for like this chunk to be a link. You know, if you just hover over like any of the kind of content or the image, that's a link, and then this is a separate link. So we'll figure that out. But from a design perspective, this kind of does it, I think. So that's going to be that for now. Maybe this afternoon after I eat lunch and take a little bit of a break, maybe I'll do the other one if people want to see that one. This other one is kind of like more of a text focused one with 2 columns, and this kind of like notification form. So there's a little bit of interesting stuff there. I got to build it today anyways, so maybe I'll just do it on stream. So anyways, I'll take a little bit of a break for now, and I'll probably come back and do that in like 45 minutes or something like that. So thanks for checking out the stream, and maybe I'll see you again in a little bit. And maybe I can find how to turn off the stream. That would be beneficial. All right, cool. All right, see ya.